Last time on Live and Let Loose, I reviewed the slasher horror film Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Winnie the Pooh is yellow. And you know who else is yellow? SpongeBob! What can be said about SpongeBob SquarePants? A lot, apparently. Like, a lot.
And of course, today will be no exception.
And surprise, surprise, I love the little yellow guy. And, like many of you watching, that love hasn't exactly been an equal give and take over the years. We all know how the story goes. After the release of the first movie, series creator Stephen Hillenburg stepped down as a showrunner. Beginning with the series' fourth season, fan perception of the show slowly but surely began to diminish, and that much would continue throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. Then, around the time of production of the second theatrical SpongeBob film, Hillenburg was said to be returning to a more active role in the show. From 2015 to the present, SpongeBob has gone through something of a second renaissance. But for today, I want to focus back in on those early to middle years. Many have dubbed this the seasonal rot era, the post-movie era, or simply modern SpongeBob, derogatory. Modern SpongeBob, neutral, has had its fair share of vocal critics over the years, from Mobro Studios, later Animate Ball, to Pie Guy Rules, to the mysterious Mr. Enter. Many YouTube videos criticizing this era of SpongeBob have thousands and even millions of views to their name. And while individual video views are not an infallible metric of shared sentiment with the fandom at large, it does help paint a picture. For many fans, the SpongeBob they grew up with was no more. And for those fans, there was something undeniably vindicating about hearing their favorite creators criticize these animated atrocities, these SpongeBob episodes. It is now 2026, and while a lot of that vitriol has simmered down, there are still some episodes from the time period that you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone defending today. It is one of those episodes for which I offer my defense. That episode being Atlantis SquarePantis. Hey y'all, if you're enjoying so far, be sure to leave a like, comment, or, if you're feeling fancy, subscribe and click the bell to all notifications below. And now, on with the video. To say that SpongeBob SquarePants Season 5 Episode 12 Atlantis SquarePantis is hated would be a massive understatement. IMDb has it rated as the 17th worst, the top 10s has it rated as the 10th worst, and some have even gone so far as to call it the worst episode of the entire series. This episode. Really? I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I don't hate this episode. I actually kinda like it.
Wait.
Now, it's not one of my favorites, but one of the bottom 20 worst in a series spanning over 300 episodes? Worse than Boating Buddies, To Love a Patty, and Choir Boys? I don't think so. To be as fair as I can, a few factors are skewing the data I'm pulling from. For SpongeBob episodes, IMDb scores account for the entire half hour of television rather than a single 11-minute segment. So, if a contentious segment is paired with something comparatively good or inoffensive, that works in favor of the episode score. Compare that to an extended length episode like Atlantis SquarePantis, which only has its own content to go off of for scoring. But even still, the fact that Atlantis SquarePantis is even part of the same conversation as some of these episodes is just baffling. Several of the biggest criticisms lobbied against this episode have never made much or any sense to me.
This episode was overhyped as hell. And look, the commercials give away the episode's climax.
Okay, and? How exactly is that the episode's fault? Commercials spoil shit all the time. And while it's unfortunate when it happens, that's not on the people who made the actual episode. Atlantis SquarePantis is nearing 20 years old. To anyone going out of their way to watch the episode nowadays, that hype and those spoilery trailers are irrelevant.
They got David Bowie to guest star in a musical episode, and they didn't even give him a song!
Okay. And yeah, sure, David Bowie getting a song would have been awesome, but it's not like that would have been the only purpose to casting him. David Bowie was a singer and an actor. Throughout his career, he acted in several projects that didn't utilize his musical ability. Furthermore, Bowie's character Lord Royal Highness, or LRH, and the other Atlanteans are modeled after the Blue Meanies from Yellow Submarine. And sure, it probably would have made more sense to cast either Paul McCartney or Ringo Starr, but by getting a British rock star to voice a character inspired by a character from one of the films from another British rock band, it makes at least some sense. Besides, SpongeBob has had celebrity guest stars with even less connection to the episode's subject matter. And if you're really that upset that David Bowie doesn't sing in the episode, he wrote a song for the SpongeBob musical, so all is forgiven.
This episode is a rip-off of Willy Wonka!
Ooh, boy, this argument. There is a fundamental difference between a rip-off and an homage. A rip-off is an unauthorized imitation of a creative work, usually of lower quality, that solely exists to capitalize off the original success and/or deceive consumers into thinking they're buying the imitated work. I highly doubt anyone seeking out any version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is going to confuse it for SpongeBob. Nor do I think the creators of Atlantis SquarePantis were deliberately trying to steal the tone, imagery, structure, or any other facet of Willy Wonka and pass it as their own. So, if nothing's being ripped off, then what's actually going on here? The answer is homage. An homage is a deliberate reference to or emulation of another creative work that exists as a sign of admiration toward the original. While recognition of the referenced work is not required for audience engagement or enjoyment, awareness can add additional context or cultural texture. SpongeBob is no stranger to homage. Squeaky Boots sends up the Telltale Heart, 2 episodes pay tribute to both Jaws and Moby Dick, and the first SpongeBob movie is an explicit homage to classic epic poems like the Odyssey. Why these examples are all fine and good, but Atlantis SquarePantis is a ripoff, is beyond me. And besides, it's not like this special only takes inspiration from Willy Wonka. As previously mentioned, the design of the Atlanteans resembles that of the Blue Meanies from Yellow Submarine, and the Germ Warrior scene sets up several video games such as Street Fighter, Dance Dance Revolution, and Bubble Bobble. Furthermore, the concept of journeying to a paradisiacal city mirrors that of the Wizard of Oz. The Hall of Art scene places Squidward inside several iconic paintings like Wood's American Gothic, Dali's The Persistence of Memory, and Van Gogh's Bedroom in Arles. In the words of YouTube's #1 plagiarism expert,
stealing from lots of places is inspiration, but stealing from one place is plagiarism.
Going off that train of thought, it's clear that Atlantis SquarePantis does not imitate a single source to cash in on the other work's success. Rather, it takes inspiration from many sources and pays tribute to popular history and culture. I've spent a lot of time defending this episode against commonly cited criticisms. With that said, just because I find a specific critique weak or unfair doesn't automatically make the episode good. The absence of flaws is not the same thing as the presence of merits. However, many aspects of the episode I like have nothing to do with these critiques. Speaking of which, let's talk about those. While we live in the second SpongeBob renaissance where every background or gag character from Bubble Bass to fucking Nosferatu has entire episodes dedicated to them, it's easy to forget just how novel Atlantis SquarePantis was when it came out. At the time of release, it was pretty rare to get an episode that featured all the main cast members. Most prior episodes that do feature everyone primarily focused on one protagonist, relegating the other characters to one-on-one interactions with SpongeBob, cameos, and brief gags. The closest we get before Atlantis SquarePantis is Dunces and Dragons. Even then, that's kind of cheating, considering most of the characters that appear in that episode are actually medieval pastiches of their usual selves. Not to mention that Mr. Krabs, or King Crabs, doesn't actually get to interact with Sandy as the Dark Knight or Plankton as Planktonomore. Atlantis SquarePantis marks the first time in the whole series in which SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Sandy, and Mr. Krabs all get to go on an adventure together, plus a little side plot with Plankton. And every character is given a goal, something to do, and meaningful interactions with one another. Even if the ways this episode uses its characters don't necessarily work for you, you can't deny just how significant it is to have everyone here like this for the first time. You can't talk about Atlantis SquarePantis without bringing up the songs. And yeah, this episode's a full-blown musical. Granted, it's not the first time the show would do this, nor would it be the last. And I am well aware that the fandom reputation of these songs isn't spectacular. While I can definitely see where these people are coming from, I don't know, man, I just like these songs. Don't get me wrong, not a single track in the episode comes close to rivaling the likes of This Girl Is Not a Home or the Fun Song. And I will admit, the songs mostly exist as an excuse to experiment with different animation styles. But even still, some of these songs are actually kind of catchy. Fueling the Bus introduces the musical styles and motifs that will reappear when the gang gets to Atlantis, and ends abruptly when Patrick can't think of what to sing. I always thought that was pretty funny. Sandy's song has always been a standout in my mind. Not only is it probably the best lyrically, but it plays to Carolyn Lawrence's strengths as a singer and pairs nicely with the instrumentals. Like the previous songs, Squidward's song primarily functions as an excuse to experiment with a new visual style. But, oh my god, it may just have the best lyric paired with a visual gag in the whole episode, maybe even the whole series. Notice how, during that last lyric, Squidward was standing on a urinal. This is a reference to Marcel Duchamp's work, Fountain, a famous contribution to the Dada movement. Dada? Ask your mama or your dada? Come on, that's clever. Lastly, there's Goodbye Atlantis, wherein we get another humorous subversion of the family films the episode emulates. While Dorothy emphasizes the sentiment of there's no place like home, a sentiment echoed by SpongeBob in the song, the rest of the gang are quick to dispel that notion with, wait a minute, home sucks, I want to stay in Atlantis! A nice SpongeBob-y twist on an old moral caps off this episode. While Atlantis SquarePantis is far from my favorite SpongeBob episode, I don't share the common criticisms cited against it. The overhype and spoiler-centric commercials are irrelevant in a modern context. David Bowie was not a wasted celebrity guest star, and chiefly, this episode is not a Willy Wonka ripoff. On the contrary, I see Atlantis SquarePantis as a love letter to several famous family films from The Wizard of Oz to Yellow Submarine. It united the main cast on their first true ensemble adventure, it experimented with various animation styles, and utilized pop culture iconography to great effect. And its songs, while far from the best the series has to offer, serve the story and characters and offer several laughs and clever lyrics. SpongeBob has had its share of bad episodes over the years, but to me, Atlantis SquarePantis is not one of them, and it will always hold a special place in my heart. But that's just my opinion. Does this episode work for you? Do you agree with any of the criticisms I argued against? What do you all think? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see new videos from me as soon as they go live, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to all notifications below. My name is Luce, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Have a great one, y'all.